City Council to order. This is an open meeting. Let me inform you all that posted in the northwest corner of this building is the actual Open Meeting Act, certainly made accessible to all members for your reading. Join us, if you will, in a moment of silence in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Continue with roll call.
Coy.
Here.
Lange.
Here.
Van Dyke.
Here.
Reeder.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Brenneman.
Here.
Faust.
Here.
Saunders.
Here.
Under action, I would request approval of the consent agenda that was included in your packet.
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
A move and a seconded for approval of the consent agenda. Please vote.
All councilpersons voting in the affirmative.
As well, I need a motion on the full agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the full agenda as provided us tonight. If you will please vote.
All councilpersons voting in the affirmative.
Okay. Tonight on the agenda we have a couple of presentations, and we'll start with Poppy Day. Proclamation for Poppy Day. Whereas our community has a continuing responsibility to veterans in veterans' homes, hospitals, or nursing homes, and whereas the American Legion Auxiliary feels obligated to help provide for the welfare of our veterans and the families of those who made the supreme sacrifice in defense of their country, and whereas the American Legion Auxiliary Unit number 16 of Norfolk has been established to aid veterans, and whereas the American Legion Auxiliary has chosen Saturday, May 15th, 2010 for its annual Poppy Day, and has announced that all funds collected will be used to assist the veterans and their families in the Norfolk area. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Sue Fookman, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, by the power vested in me, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 15th, 2010 as Poppy Day in the City of Norfolk, Nebraska and the surrounding area, and urge all citizens to recognize this observance and support veterans. Is there anyone here with us tonight to accept that proclamation? If you want to come forward, please. Why don't I let you state your name for us?
Okay.
And maybe give just a little bit of information on what it is that and how you're going to work that Saturday.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. I am Jolene Smith. I am the American Legion Auxiliary President here in Norfolk. The American Legion Auxiliary is the largest women's patriotic organization in the world. We actually have been in existence now 90 years. And as the mayor said, one of our main goals is to support our veterans. And so we can do this through our annual Poppy Day. The poppies are actually made by the veterans at the Norfolk Veterans Home, and then we purchase them from the veterans, and then we go out and distribute them to the community. And as Mayor Sue Fookman said, any donations we get are used for veteran programs. And so I don't know if anybody went to the World War II event that was held at the Johnny Carson, but if you listen to those testimonials, those veterans really do deserve to be honored and supported. And so this is just one of the ways we do it is through Poppy Day. And so I'd like to thank you, Mayor, and the Council for giving us this proclamation for Poppy Day. And I urge everyone to support our veterans every day and on May 15th. Thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
For some reason, I think I've already had two Poppy Days, one at Hy-Vee West like a month ago, and then one at Hy-Vee East like last weekend, I think it was, or maybe a week ago.
Yes.
What's the deal there, I guess, with this question?
There are two other organizations in town, the Purple Heart and then the VFW. And they also have an annual Poppy Day too, which does confuse people. And we all have veteran programs at the Veterans Home and do other things for veterans. And so actually there's 3 times a year where there's going to be Poppy Day in Norfolk. And so we have a lot of people say that to us. We've already got our Poppy. And, that's fine. We try to give them another one, and hopefully they'll take one from us too, but sometimes I think they're getting hit 3 times, so that's why.
I was just curious. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for the question.
Appreciate the clarification as well. Continue your efforts. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You bet. And the second one we have tonight is a proclamation, Parents Who Host Lose the Most. Whereas adults who provide alcohol to those below the legal drinking age of 21 are placing those youth at risk for health, safety, and legal problems, and whereas alcohol used by young people is dangerous, not only because of the risks associated with acute impairment, but also because of the threat to their long-term development and well-being. And whereas it is illegal to give or to allow your teens' friends to drink alcohol in your home, even with parents' permission, and whereas anyone found guilty of providing alcohol to youth under Nebraska's criminal law can face up to a $1,000 fine and 1 year in jail or both, in addition to any civil action that can be brought on as a result of damages or injury related to the offense. And whereas adults have the authority and responsibility to our youth to provide them with alternative opportunities by creating alcohol-free activities, and whereas Drug-Free Action Alliance, through the Parents Who Host Lose the Most, Don't Be a Party to Teenage Drinking campaign, provides the educational material to raise community awareness regarding this illegal and unhealthy practice. And whereas the City of Norfolk encourages residents to refuse to provide alcoholic beverages to underage youth and to take necessary steps to discourage the illegal and unhealthy practice, including the reporting of underage drinking by calling their local police. And whereas be it resolved that the City of Norfolk not only discourages the use of alcohol by those under the legal age of consumption, but also exhorts all residents of the City of Norfolk to refuse to provide alcoholic beverages to those underage youth, and will continue to take necessary steps to discourage this illegal and unhealthy activity. Now therefore, I, Sue Flickman, Mayor of Norfolk, State of Nebraska, do hereby proclaim the week of May 9th through the 15th, 2010 to be Parents Who Host Lose the Most, Don't Be a Party to Teenage Drinking Week 2010. Anyone here to accept the proclamation? Okay, it is signed and it will be filed there. Thanks, Beth. All right, then, under regular agenda here, we have a request for consideration of the Vehicle Parking District's request to form a business improvement district with the same boundaries as a vehicle parking district, funded by special assessments levied against property in the district based on the assessed valuation of both the real property and the personal property located thereon.
Your Honor, I would move consideration.
Second that, Your Honor.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consideration here. I'd ask for discussion. Is that going to be you for us, Randy?
Yes.
Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Vehicle Parking District Board voted at their April 20th meeting to make a request to the City Council to form a business improvement district. They want this business improvement district to encompass the same boundaries as the existing vehicle parking district, and include in the agenda packets their first year budget for their 10-11 fiscal year, and that's for $50,000. And proposing this money be raised by special assessments against the real and personal property. Well, against the real property, but be based on the real and personal property valuations located in total on that property. And as you can see, if you look at the budget, it's primarily for downtown marketing and promotion. There's about 11 steps that we need to go through to create a business improvement district, from the time you start the process until you actually end up getting the money collected from the special assessments and having it available to spend. By the time you go through all those steps, there's a lot of notice and provisions and hearings, and not just only in front of this body, but even in front of the Planning Commission. Probably 6 months will be needed to get through all of that. First step would be to get rid of an existing business improvement district. There was a business improvement district created in 1982 that is on Norfolk Avenue from 1st through 6th Streets. That's been dormant since the late 1980s. And we'd want to get rid of that so we wouldn't have two overlapping business improvement districts. As I indicated, they're wanting to raise $50,000 the first year based on the 2009 assessed valuations, that would result in a 20.7467 cent levy rate, or about 21 cents per $100 of assessed value. The actual first-year levy rate would be based on the 2010 assessed valuation, so it would vary somewhat from that. Another request they made was that since we have the vehicle parking district and the proposed business improvement district with the same boundaries, to avoid having two separate boards, have the mayor appoint the existing vehicle parking district board as the business improvement district board, and by resolution have that board serve as the vehicle parking district advisory board. And there are several members from the vehicle parking district board here tonight to discuss this with the council.
Okay. Make sure that I understand why it is, if what we're doing is assessing the BID, would it be assessing the same vehicle parking district? However, are they to the point of no further ability to assess themselves?
That's exactly right. The state law puts a 35-cent limit on what vehicle parking districts can tax. So they're at that limit.
Okay.
The business improvement district and the vehicle parking districts until the late 1990s were, just as the name would imply, they were for vehicle parking. In the late 1990s, the time when our business improvement district was allowed to go dormant, they took the section out of statutes that related to what business improvement districts could do and moved that same language over into the vehicle parking district section of statutes. So vehicle parking districts can now do the same thing that business improvement districts could do. So at that time, it was simpler just to do away with the business improvement district tax and let the vehicle parking district do not only vehicle parking like they had, but also the promotional and marketing efforts that the business improvement district was doing. And as a further complication reason for doing that, there was a court case involving Hastings Business Improvement District that was at that same late 1990s time frame. It said the way Hastings was doing their tax wasn't appropriate and that they couldn't collect that tax based on that method, and most of the business improvement districts, including ours, had used that same way of forming the district and levying the tax. So we would have had to back up and redo how we were doing the business improvement district tax. Since it was easier just to use the vehicle parking district at that time, and they had enough room in their 35-cent levy to do both, that's how we went. But now that they've done the downtown project and some of those other big dollar projects, and they want to, and I believe the board members can discuss that tonight, want to do existing marketing and promotion efforts, they cannot raise what they need with the 35 cents.
Okay.
I'm somewhat confused, and I know that we recently extended the vehicle parking district to go to 8th Street. I do not know that we have extended the BID to go to 8th Street.
No, the BID is as it existed back in 1982 when it was created, and it was only for those businesses facing on Norfolk Avenue, and it was from 1st to 6th Street. And so the first step of creating this new business improvement district would be to do away with the old dormant business improvement district that's out there and has been out there since 1982. And the new business improvement district would have the same boundaries as the vehicle parking district, including going out to pick up that 8th Street that was with the recent annexation that the vehicle parking district made.
I appreciate that explanation, and I'm still wondering now, has the individual property owners within the BID agreed to this change in this assessment?
I don't believe there's been any survey taken of the existing vehicle parking district members.
And this, sorry, Randy, this is just for marketing mainly? That's what the BID would be for marketing? And
Correct. The
Okay.
proposed budget, as they have in here, would be for marketing and downtown promotion efforts.
Okay. I guess personally, I own a building downtown, and I think it's a positive thing. I think we need all the advertising we can, but I guess I would probably move to have staff take the steps to do some surveying with the business owners. And I think that maybe that would help people understand what's going on with it and where the money would go. So I guess maybe the appropriate thing would be to table it until that's done. Have we done any of that? I know.
Well, and it's certainly, come forward and speak if you want to, Connie, and if either one, whomever wants to come forward and speak.
You made a motion, though.
I'm sorry.
You made a motion?
Mhm.
So that means
Do
we
I have a
can't have,
second?
we don't have
We
a
don't have
second
a
yet.
second.
Oh, can we not have further discussion?
Well, no, if we're on a table, but...
Well, it was just a motion.
Yeah.
And so I guess in my reasoning is that in the front end, if we can save ourselves some explanation, go and talk to some of the business owners and let them understand the importance of it, because I think it is an important thing, so.
But you can do that after Connie
Right.
discusses.
Okay,
We're not going to say that.
so what?
Okay, Connie Geary, 1707 North 13th Street. Oh,
We're not I'm not going to take
Okay, all right, we're not, very good. Go ahead, sorry, Connie.
1707 North 13th Street here in Norfolk, and here representing the Vehicle Parking District downtown. I guess I had understood as part of this process that there would be some town halls. Rather than surveying, we would have them come in and we would have discussion on it. Some of would include events, not just marketing. So like, we have D-Arts, the Christmas, some of those kind of events. We've been covering those. The DNA used to cover a lot of that, and they assessed something downtown, and they've kind of disbanded. They've still got a board, but they're not actively collecting any monies. So basically, that comes over to the parking district, and it's coming out of our resources. So we are finding that we need to increase that in some way. This last winter, with that and with the plantings, and we're using up most of our budget, basically.
Okay, in order for you to get and I don't know, in order for you to get an increase in your ability to assess under the vehicle parking district, that has to go before the state? Is that who? I have no clue.
No, it can't change.
It cannot
There's a
change?
set limit, and we're at that.
And you can't change that? Okay? That answers that question.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can't do it. So the only way, we could either, the DNA could go back to collecting some funds. The BID originally probably did this before the DNA did this. So, just in the transitions that have happened over the years, it's fallen onto the vehicle parking district. And we had put in our budget to do this, but when we've got the new sidewalk assessment, and just was, we had a heavy winter this last year, and what the snow removal is going to take. And we've also added that we pay to have the care for the plants and the medians and stuff downtown. So that's basically, when we looked at this year's budget, we were having about $13,000 only, if we keep our regular marketing budget, left to continue to do things on the side streets, or on Madison, on First Street, Second Street. And there's other work to be done in the other parking lots that we're not going to be able to get to unless we come up with some extra funding. So that's a lot of the reason why we need to do this.
Okay, let me ask for a little bit of clarification. You referred to the Downtown Merchant Association. Is that what you were referring to before as
The
far as
DNA,
funding?
yes.
DNA?
Downtown Norfolk Association.
Downtown Norfolk Association, okay. And that no longer operates? Is that a true?
Well, it has a board and they have meetings, but they've not funded themselves for a
Okay.
long time. Basically, instead of funding themselves, they've come to the vehicle parking district when they've had events and said, we need $10,000 for this event, or we need $5,000 for this event, and the vehicle parking district has been funding that for some time,
Okay.
instead of going back to the merchant, or, downtown businesses for that money. They've not collected for a long time. And I'm sorry, that's my phone, I should have silenced it. So, just ignore
Nice
it.
ring.
Yeah, unusual.
Let's see, what's that one? And I guess for this year, some of the things that we plan to do, I talked about things that we wanted to do on the side streets. Originally, we had went and painted the other light poles that were kind of matching our style. They're fluted poles. We painted those black. And we want to continue to either replace those and have something that matches. We want to do plantings. There's several of the parking lots that are off of Norfolk Avenue that have the old evergreen bushes that are overgrown and way past their life. They just are a mess, and they collect trash. So we've started actually this spring. We've pulled the ones over here that are along across the street from the theater.
Yeah.
And put dirt in there, so we're going to do that parking lot first, that one and this one, and the theater has even probably asked that, if we could help them do some other things aesthetically in front of there. So we want to be able to do those things, not just have Norfolk Avenue, and we've kind of gotten to where, it's going to take a long time unless we make some room in our budget.
Okay, all right.
And so you were talking, Connie, about doing town hall meetings to explain this to the citizens
Yes.
before?
Yes, I understood that was part of the am I wrong, Randy? That was going to be part of this?
This is the first I've heard of town hall meetings. There are hearing requirements as you go forward with the business improvement district. There will have to be hearings, people have to be notified.
Okay. I guess I was thinking that they would be some kind of town hall. I knew that we had to bring them in somehow and make them aware of what we're working
Well,
on.
I think it would create a good opportunity to explain how people could market their businesses downtown with something like this.
Well, it's not just marketing, like advertising marketing. It's covering the events, it's covering our Christmas, it covered the arts, and, we're going to do something for the comedy festival here in a week or so. Host an event, kind of a wine and cheese thing one night, and then that'll be on a Thursday night to kick off the comedy festival. And then on Saturday night, there's going to be a barbecue over in the parking lot by the Centrum, and the comedians are actually going to be there to meet the public, and we're hosting that event as well. So, there's things that we need to, it takes money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It takes money to do
Oh,
those.
like I said, I'm a business owner downtown, and I think it's a great benefit. And I guess I don't know if tabling this thing so that, I don't know if you have a,
Well, you know what, Carl, I appreciate your idea of getting information out to everyone that's going to be affected by the choice that we're asking this council to make. I think not everyone that might be a business or a property owner down there is necessarily a business owner. I go back to my days of sitting on the planning commission and us making sure that anyone affected prior to any change, you reach out to everyone. And I always thought that was a good way for people to get the information, digest it a little bit, and then have further conversation. So if what you're talking of, if we have a way of doing that with your suggestion here is maybe to table, I respect that. Again, there's...
do you have a conflict with that, Connie? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. How long would it take? I guess I just thought if you approved it and we went forward as part of this process, there would be hearings as it moved forward. But I don't know, I don't know, Randy, explain to us how this works, I guess.
Yeah, there would be a hearing. If you look in the agenda packet.
Number 8.
That would be the 8th of the 11 steps would be a hearing. It would be quite a ways into the process. We'd have a lot of time involved with this before we got to the hearing.
There's a lot of effort, though, that is going to be put in by city staff before we get to even point 8, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's part of my concern here a little bit, is making sure that as we step forward and ask staff to provide the information, that we know that we have support of or at least an understanding of everyone of what the commitment is that they're taking on in forming a new BID. So,
No, you're correct. That way, by doing a survey, you'd get an idea if everybody's on board or not on board, and then you can go either direction. And before you have staff do the 8 steps, be nice to know, probably.
Well, and I think
Rather than a survey, I'd rather see us have open meetings so that we make sure that they have an understanding. On a survey, they may not fully understand, and the responses may come back.
And I don't think it matters, Connie, how you do it, but I think we need to get them together and do it. And if you have a public meeting and show them like you're doing tonight, that's great, but you at least get them in there and see if you have your support or do not, and then we can move ahead, So I think that's all Carl was trying to do, is get them together.
Will that be sufficient for you to be able to, if we do that, I don't know, how do we record that?
Yeah.
How that comes out for you, though, I guess would be
You could
better.
you could maybe have some staff on board, to at least, so that when the question's asked, everybody says that they know at least that they are supportive, and then they can move ahead, you know.
Okay.
They can bring it to us.
Well, James, do you have anything you want to?
James Wappelhorst, 308 West Norfolk Avenue, a financial advisor for Northwestern Mutual. Good evening. Good to see you guys. Thanks for taking a few seconds. I think Connie has through most of it. Thanks for your questions. I think the fundamental problem that it really comes down to, simply in a 30-second answer or less, is the vehicle parking district has taken on several different roles in the last decade, and the funding hasn't increased. And as a result of that, we're doing a lot of things poorly in some areas. Because of that. We're doing a lot of things very well, but there are others that I think are being neglected or are being done not to the extent they could be if there were those types of funds that were available. And so as a result of that, I believe it's appropriate to have some type of funding for the role that we're trying to do for the city of Norfolk, which is revitalize its downtown. And as a young person here, with some of the other young people here, I think that's a key factor. When we look into a community, when I was in the Haymarket, 2 weeks ago in the Old Market in Omaha, that's where life is. I think it's a key part of our revitalization. We want the vehicle parking district to do what it's supposed to do, which is keep the potholes out of the parking lot, pave it, do all those type of things, help with the alleyways, but then also have dollars to help refresh the downtown with the new pots downtown, the plants, the sidewalks, et cetera, and there just aren't those dollars there. And so whether it goes as a town hall meeting or a survey, I personally like the idea of a town hall meeting too, because it allows people to vocalize. There's dialogue. Survey seems to be very informal. And so, that seems as a good approach. Another thing that I don't know is a possibility, if we need to have the steps, I want to be conscious of the city's time and energy that's put into this, because those are taxpayer dollars. And I don't know if there's some type of reimbursement the vehicle parking district could do for the city if for some reason it were to get to that step 8 and it were not to go through because of some type of decline or outcry in the community, if you will, or downtown. Maybe we could reimburse the city or the staff for those expenses incurred. I have no idea. So anyway, that was just all the thoughts I had. So.
Well, and, James, we appreciate you being here, too. And I think probably, though, the one thing I want to stress is, as city staff moves forward with other, with the budget work that we're going to start doing, I think it's very important that we use their time wisely. It's not so much even about the money issues, and if we can certainly help and go forward with the BID and you have full support, great. I think the staff is there to help you. That's truly my concern with that. Sure. As well, I think Carl expressed it well, too. So.
Well, and I think, too, I think it's important for the citizens to know the things that go on downtown, and it's amazing, what they're able to do. And just with that property tax from downtown.
Right.
It's not I think a lot of people think that it's property tax all over the whole city.
Right.
It's the downtown, so it's a small area.
Right. I appreciate both of those perspectives, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your being here.
Randy, I had a question, kind of on what Jim was talking about, but the advantage of dissolving the old BID, the vehicle parking district took their taxing power. Is that why we have to dissolve it? Why not keep the existing BID and just extend its boundaries and save the 6 months worth of paperwork?
The extending the boundaries is, we didn't really actually look at that process, but I don't think that's a simple thing to do. At least it wasn't when we extended the vehicle parking district boundaries. And because of the other problems that exist with the BID, and if I remember right, it kind of went back to the creation of the BID. Things weren't done exactly right, and that's what happened in that Hastings Supreme Court case. So it'd basically be going back and reinventing the BID anew, and it seemed easiest and simplest to get rid of the old one and start over again from scratch. I don't think we're going to save anything, maybe even complicate things by trying to take the existing BID and reform it into this new animal.
And possibly keep us from going through this again at some point in time. We'll do it right from square one, and at some point in time, if they would expand the BID, we would be in a position to expand it at that time, since it was done correctly.
Right. There's a process, I believe, for expanding the BID, just like there's a process for expanding the vehicle parking district. But
Okay. Thank you.
I think that if you go back and you look at that Hastings case, what that disclosed was that the existing business improvement district, the dormant one that Randy's made mention to, really had fatal defects from the time that it was first put together back in the early 1980s or whenever it was, and that didn't come to light until a property owner in the Hastings Business Improvement District objected to the special assessment. And one of the things about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, but what's talked about here is not a general tax like that which the vehicle parking district has at 35 cents. This is a special assessment which requires that each of the properties that would be assessed that has a special benefit that they derive from that taxation. So it's a little bit more. There's a subtle difference between that and the general taxation. One other matter, if I may, Mayor. There was some discussion here on the dais about the possibility of tabling that to survey or to town hall meeting or whatever. I would just advise that you be aware that if you table something, it needs to come back on the next agenda unless you table it to a date certain. And of course, the problem with that is if the same thing keeps showing up on the agenda, people that might be interested don't know if they should come because something's going to happen, so you just might consider that to go forward.
Well, and I think setting a date's fine, but I'd like it to move as fast as you guys want it to. So I don't know if you have an idea, if you already had some ideas for some town hall meetings. Probably don't have anything set up now, but, I mean, it could be, I would imagine, as small as some of your downtown meetings that you've had with just the business owners.
One, I think that's the important piece. As long as everybody gets the information, is invited, then it's up to them to take
So,
the
I mean-
ability to have someone there. So, and
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
and I don't think we need to talk about a number of town hall meetings, as long as you're having one where you have the ability to let them come and ask the questions.
I guess, to me, the real question would be, do you feel comfortable within the next 2 weeks that you could have these meetings? Or do we have to set the first meeting in June as the day to bring it back from table?
I think we could, yes. I just wasn't aware that, we wouldn't be doing this first. I don't think it'll take us very long to get this first yet.
So just leave it on and...
So then we could table it until the next meeting, as opposed to setting the date of the first meeting in June.
Yeah, we have a meeting tomorrow, Tuesday morning at 8, and we can make this one of the first things on the agenda to discuss getting that done so that we're not wasting you guys' time for next time.
That'd be great.
Okay,
So then we need a second on the table?
can't wait.
They cannot amend their agenda.
No, there's a couple of issues, if I may. First of all, you can't amend an agenda for tomorrow morning because it's not 24 hours ahead of time, which is what Beth's talking about. The second issue is, I think in the preliminary work that Randy's done, there are in the vehicle parking district, what would be the proposed new business improvement district, you've got 160 different owners. Is that correct?
167 real property owners, more real property owners.
More parcels than that, but different owners that would...
There's a certain number of personal property tax owners, most of which are the same as the real property tax owners, but not all the same.
Well, I don't know, to help you out here, when you would put it on again here, our regular meeting is the second Tuesday of the month, which will be next week, so we can put it on next Tuesday. I don't know how that works out.
And our agenda goes out on the 13th.
Whose agenda? Our agenda?
Our agenda will go out on the 13th. So I don't know how you can get it done.
Just in the order of trying to get a hold of 160 different people to set up a meeting where they're all on the same page, make sure they're getting their facts correct with this. I mean, this is 1st of June, our first meeting of June, is that
June
soon
7th.
enough?
June 7th would be the first meeting in June.
I mean,
Can we do that?
That gives you a month to get 160 people together at some point in time to they're agreeing or, at least having an understanding of the concepts, what's happening here. So, I mean, overall, I agree with what you guys are doing downtown. I think you guys are doing a great job down there. And the BID is probably going to do, help it out, move things along a little quicker, give you more funds. But I'd like to hear from some more businesses than, no offense, but 2 businesses compared to 160. I'd like to make sure we got everybody on board too, so.
If I may ask a question, Your Honor?
Please.
Are we looking at it for this town hall meeting, just getting the word out via the newspaper and the press, or are we looking at actually sending notices to people that there's going to be a town hall meeting on this day at this place to discuss this?
I guess I feel that we could leave it, professional people, they could probably lay it out.
Are most of
I'd
the
send a
owners
letter.
in Norfolk, Randy, are there a lot of them that own businesses out of Norfolk?
There's, some of the biggest property owners are, at least the addresses that the county has are out of state for them, the phone company being an example.
Is it difficult, I mean, the letter I would think would be the easiest one, just in case somebody misses it in the paper or something, but,
That way
I
they know.
agree.
I mean, like, that way they know there is a meeting, and if they didn't choose to come, that was
It'd be
wrong.
pretty easy, it'd be real easy if we can get a electronic mailing list from the county, and a little more difficult because we'd have to enter 100 and, probably by the time you get all the personal property owners, if we're going to do that, and the real property owners, 170 or 80 property owners, but yeah, that can be done.
I would recommend a letter.
Okay. All right, where are we with this now? The
Table
motion
till
to-
June 7th, so we can
Is
have,
that motion still alive, Beth? No.
We need a new motion.
Yes, we need a new motion, maybe with the addition of Councilman's suggestion of a letter.
Okay, so make the motion to table this item and until June 7th, 2010, to have some time for a town hall meeting,
And a letter to go
and a
out.
letter will be sent out.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion at all? Okay, hearing none then? Please vote.
All councilpersons voting in the affirmative.
Thank you, Connie, and appreciate your coming tonight. Under administrative reports, we have Black and Beach with us tonight with a presentation of the Southwest Interceptor Study.
That was like pulling teeth.
They got 10 minutes.
It does, it does.
I don't know that I can see.
Didn't make a move.
Anybody else have direction? Treats?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
You need one. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rich Henderson. I'm with Black and Beach Engineering. I'm here to talk about a study that we undertook for the Department of Public Works called the Southwest Interceptor Study. And a little bit of background on the project. The study came out of the 2008 Sanitary Sewer Master Plan, and during that master planning work that we did, some of the modeling work, we found some capacity concerns along the Highway 275 corridor, sanitary sewer corridor. Along with that, planning for future growth in the southwest portion of the city, we saw a need to be able to alleviate these capacity concerns and also route some sanitary sewer out to the southwest. And in the process of doing that, we started to realize that this sanitary sewer line, as it progressed to the southwest, could be the ability to abandon some of the existing lift stations, in particular 3 lift stations, which in the long run would help lower operation and maintenance costs. We analyzed 4 different alternatives. We were looking at the length of the route, going out to the south, or to the west, and then actually up to the northwest. That's basically where the capacity concerns are coming from the new hospital up by Highway 275 and the apartment buildings and the growth up in there. And again, looking towards future growth in the southwest portion too. So the length of the route and the slopes concerned with the sanitary sewer were analyzed to look at whether we could eliminate some of these lift stations, basically gravity flow instead of having to pump anymore. And then minimizing conflicts with existing utilities was looked at. How busy are the right-of-way corridors or private land crossings and things like that, and then obviously overall cost. The first route that we looked at, and just to give some orientation here, we have, oh, sorry, my hand's shaking a little bit, 13th Street right here, Omaha Avenue, Highway 275, the Walmart, Goodyear, the Goodyear lift station, and down here on 4th Street in Monroe. So we'd start basically at 4th and Jackson, head over to 5th Street, come north onto Monroe, and then cross the Newport property over to 25th Street and head north all the way over to 25th Street on that alternative. The second alternative is very similar with the exception that instead of going all the way up 25th Street, we would head west on Omaha Avenue and actually use city-owned property, the city ditch property that heads to the north up there. There's a nice corridor that we could get the sanitary sewer in. In order for this alternative to work, we would have to put a short piece of interceptor in here to be able to get the flow to gravity over to the south side of Highway 275. And that would help. That would be the piece of line that would capture the flow from the hospital and those apartment complexes up there. Alternatives 3 and 4 are very similar in the north, the two separate routes that I showed here. But what we did was, instead of coming down Monroe Avenue, we looked at the possibility of coming down through Tahazuka Park to pick up the Tahazuka lift station. In those earlier alternatives, I forgot to mention that coming down Monroe Avenue, your catch Monroe lift station, all the alternatives go by the Goodyear lift station, and Tahazuka lift station is down here. What we found as we analyzed the slopes and whether we could gravity feed into all the different things was alternatives 3 and 4 really didn't work. One of the main concerns is on 5th Avenue there's Corporation Gulch, and that's a very deep gulch, and the pipeline, we couldn't get it low enough because of the tie-in point over on Monroe Avenue or Jackson Avenue and 4th. Along with that, you skip the ability to be able to abandon or eliminate Monroe lift station also with alternatives 3 and 4. After looking at alternatives 1 and 2 a little bit further, alternative 2 turned out to be a little bit more of the preferred route. It abandons all 3 lift stations. Actually, alternatives 1 and 2 did that. But really, alternative 2 minimizes the amount of conflicts with existing utilities in 25th Street by utilizing the city ditch property north of Omaha Avenue. Construction costs, we broke the interceptor down into 5 different segments. The first of those being the tie-in at 4th Street and Jackson Avenue, and then heading up 5th Street over to Monroe, or the intersection of Monroe and 13th Street, and that's about $1.3 million in construction cost. Section 2, like I was saying earlier, you'd be able to tie in the Tahazuka lift station and actually gravity feed to the interceptor at that intersection of 13th Street and Monroe Avenue. And again, the first part of the project, first phasing, would actually capture the Monroe lift station and basically eliminate that. So with those first 2 sections, you eliminate 2 lift stations. And that second phase is about $240,000 worth of construction cost. Moving on to the west, the third phase would be coming across past WISPAC to the Union Pacific Railroad, boring underneath the railroad and coming out to 25th Street. Again, that's another $1.3 million of construction cost. Fourth phase would be $732,000 of construction cost, and at that point, you could eliminate the Goodyear lift station. And that's included in that $732,000. And then the fifth phase brings the interceptor all the way up to the north and alleviates the, brings that north flow all the way down to the interceptor, to the existing sewer system. So the next steps, total of all 5 construction costs in today's dollars is $4.7 million. Next steps, we would recommend design of sections 1 and 2 to be able to eliminate 2 lift stations in one project. In particular, the Tazooka lift station would eliminate a lot of the concerns with WISPAC, with them surcharge over taxing the system at the Tazooka lift station, which has become quite a problem recently. And it also provides, by bringing that interceptor down to the Tazooka lift station, it provides a discharge point if there's ever extension of the sanitary sewer system to the south of the river. Design of future sections would be considered as future development occurs, especially along the proposed route and development of the northwest area above the 25th and Highway 275, Norfolk Avenue. Are there any questions?
Rich, with the, say, because it looks like this could be completed in phases, your recommendation is basically phase 1 and 2 to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Life expectancy on the thing, I mean, we looking at a 40, 50-year process or not? I mean, because I go by the lift station at Tazooka, and probably every 2 weeks I see somebody from the department out there working on the thing, or appears to be working on the thing. So I'm going, that's something that's got to be costly if we can. That makes this 4.72 go down considerably too. So
yeah, in particular, with PVC sanitary sewer pipe, life expectancy of that is, definitely within the 30 to 40 year range. Manholes, which are the concrete structures that you have in the ground, I think there's been a lot of improvements made with coatings, interior linings, sewer shield and things like that, that actually coat the interior and make them very resistant to any type of hydrogen sulfide damage over time. Same thing with epoxy type coatings on the exterior of the manholes to be able to resist anything with that too. So I think overall that yes, it would be a benefit in terms of operation and maintenance and bringing the costs down with it. The line it was sized when we looked at slopes and everything too, in terms of having to flush the lines or anything like that. Everything was sized to 10th state standards wastewater in terms of minimum slopes. So we should still get flushing velocities through there. Everything.
What size is this diameter?
24 inch.
24 inch.
Ivan, some of that sizing was due to the slopes. We had to increase the size so we could flatten the slopes and get rid of the lift stations as we went. So that was part of the reason for the sizing.
Same size all the way from?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. One of the concerns with the lift stations too that we neglected to mention is, obviously when you have a lift station, you have a wet well, and anytime anybody's near it, you smell the wet well. So it would alleviate odor concerns too, especially with businesses close by. Monroe Avenue in particular is one. There's a lot of proximity to businesses.
When you proceed north of Goodyear to the hospital, he said we're going to use existing city land. Some of that's wetland. Is there any concerns or stipulations with that wetland or being adjacent to a wetland?
Our plan would be that we would be installing this in the berms that should be highland property.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, in fact, when we did the slopes and analyzed the slope, the preliminary survey information in the top of ground, we used the existing berm.
So what are we looking at for a timeline on like stages 1 and 2, phases 1 and 2?
Probably look at those, putting those into next year's budget to start moving forward.
And completion, all phases, and
Phases 3, 4, and 5, I think that'll be dependent somewhat upon what type of growth we see. This study was to lay out that routing for the whole thing, not necessarily that we were moving forward with construction immediately, but if you don't look at the upper end, you'd end up designing the lower end so it wouldn't work on the upper end.
Right, I understand.
So I don't have a time frame today for 3, 4, and 5.
So 1 and 2 would definitely be the initial though.
1 and 2 are the ones that
Get on next year or whatever.
that need to be looked at sooner than later.
Got it.
That Monroe Avenue lift station is 40 years old,
Wow.
a little longer than that, so, you know, it's not short in the tooth anymore, so.
Any other questions, Council? Any other questions, Council? Anyone else? Rich, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing nothing else on the agenda then?
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Do I have a second?
What more should we?
We are adjourned.
Make a motion, I would say in session, so good night.